And welcome, everyone, to Magic Insiders. We are presented by International Diamond Center. Dante Marcatelli and Jake Chapman here with you on this fine Tuesday morning. Great to have you with us, and we encourage you to write in, to message us. We want your feedback, and we'll do our best to respond to that. And as we get ready for the Magic, and tomorrow night they're going to host the Houston Rockets, who come in after a furious comeback last night at home at the hands of the Philadelphia 76ers. They win in overtime. But, Jake, before we get to all of that, a 3-2 road trip. How about this Orlando Magic team when you're leaving thinking, okay, you got to get the New Orleans one. Can you steal another one, maybe two, somewhere on that trip? I don't know that we thought Milwaukee and Cleveland were going to be the ones, but they were. How about what they did on that trip?
Yeah, you bookend that trip with some massive wins, and the Milwaukee one was the one that sort of caught us off guard based on the way the team was playing.
The Cleveland one for me.
Well, heading out on that road trip, I didn't know what to expect after that homestand, a 1-6 homestand. So you go and you get that one, and then I think you sort of calm down a little bit, feel a little bit better about yourself, and then obviously maybe the win of the season on Sunday. So, 3-2, you'll take it. I think people probably would have taken 2-3, maybe even 1-4. Successful road trip. Now you come back home, take care of business.
Well, and that's what's going to be next for this Magic team. So they've got the Houston Rockets. So you spend 10 days on the road. You have a 5-hour delay getting home, and then you're home for a day and a half. And then you head right back out, and you're gonna visit Washington D.C. before you come back for a couple of games in a row, which will be big games here next week. So, and again, we go ahead and invite you to send in your comments and your questions, and we'll get those answered right here for you now on Magic Insiders. And coming up for the Orlando Magic, that's what it's going to look like. So after you have these are your next 3 home games, or actually your next 3 games overall. Our monitor isn't working, but we are able to see it here on the screen on the stream in front of us. So you have that game against Houston Rockets, then you go to Washington, our nation's capital, and then you come home. Is that going to be a decent game? Though Luka Doncic and hopefully LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers coming up on Monday.
It always is added intrigue now with Luka, and whether or not we'll see LeBron. I have a feeling we will. Fingers crossed, but I have a feeling we will.
So Will Dawson says, I love how you were chirping on Twitter after the win on Sunday.
I didn't see that.
I did do a little chirping because I always have Paolo Banchero's back, and you know that. We always have Paolo's back. And there were some people that were taking exception to him talking with Ty Jerome, and I simply said, mess around and find out. Yeah. And that's what happened, right? Because potentially Ty Jerome kind of woke the beast.
Yeah.
Can we make that leap?
I said it on the broadcast. I said, yes. I don't know why he's poking that bear, especially with the way that the guy's been playing post
of all the bears
break.
to poke.
Ty Jerome's having a fantastic season.
He is, no question.
Banchero's having a better one.
Yes.
when available. And so I don't think there was any needed added motivation for that game. I think everybody was on 10 for that one, but sure, early on you built up a lead. Maybe let sleeping dogs lie.
Let sleeping dogs lie. Well, that one got away from you, and the Magic get the win of the season, beating the Cavaliers, who are the hottest team in the NBA. But in doing so, let's take a look at Paolo Banchero. In that basketball game, he had a terrific road trip, but he's been terrific since the All-Star break. In that basketball game, 24 points, 11 rebounds, right? He gets his 6th double-double of the season, 7 assists. He was 3 assists away from a triple-double. But since the All-Star break, he is 24.9 points per game, which is second best in the NBA. He only trails Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is probably the runaway winner for MVP, right?
So, yeah.
You say that because of their record. Obviously, Nikola Jokic has something to say about that. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 9 of 11 from the free throw line on Sunday against the Cavaliers. But again, 25 points a game since the All-Star break. This is what we saw the first 5 games of the season from Paolo Banchero.
Absolutely. You knew it was coming. It took him a little bit of time, I think, to ramp up off the injury. But just in the month of March, Dante, and this is getting to be a pretty big sample size, 8 games?
Yes.
Just under 30 points a game, 29.9 points per game, 2.1 turnovers a game. He's
huge.
The usage is through the roof.
Right.
The ball is in his hands. Typically, there's 2, maybe even 3 defenders shading him, and he's not turning the ball over. He's making the right play within the framework of the offense. Had 43 points in a loss on Friday in Minnesota, and he was absolutely phenomenal in that game in Cleveland. And we're getting to the point where we're expecting it night in and night out. Obviously, the team needs it. But I think when you look at the turnovers, when you look at those assist numbers, he's not just hijacking the offense and getting to his shot. He's creating opportunities for his teammates as well, and you're seeing the results.
Jay Curve, good tapping in with you as well. This Magic team getting 3-0. Tom says for that 3-game schedule that's coming up. But how about this? Couple of questions here, Jake, and we'll throw it back to you. First from Rome. Don't you guys love how P5 doesn't back down from anyone?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what we saw with Ty Jerome, right?
And I think we knew that was in his DNA coming out of Duke. I mean, he sort of always has presented himself that way. But yeah, like I think he could have probably just cruised along, and maybe we end up winning that game. But at that point, like, what are you doing, Ty Jerome? Like, why? Like,
just let it go.
Just let the guy
but
go.
now he was on a heater, though. I mean, he was playing well. Ty Jerome, everything he was throwing up was going in. But yeah, why are you going to poke that bear?
Right.
Like, and I'm sure Jared Allen and Max Strus and all the guys that had to guard him were like, really?
Right.
You're going to do
Yeah,
this, DeAndre Hunter?
exactly.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Exactly.
Thanks
Talk
a
to
lot.
Anthony Black or something like that, Ty.
Nero says, "What's your Twitter name, guys?" Okay, so I'm at Dante Magic.
At Jake Chapman OM, as in Orlando Magic.
At Jake Chapman OM. Okay, there you go. Shooting the ball with confidence. Will Dawson says, okay, and then I'll let you tackle this from Nero. Suggs and AB, right? Both shooting guards, small forward. We need to bring in a pointing guard, shooting guard. And then so he has some suggestions on who you can add. But also from Lester, what will it take for Anthony Black to be your starting point guard? So give us kind of a thought on Corey Joseph, who has been phenomenal, filling in as a starting point guard, and then the role that maybe you envision for Anthony Black the last 15.
I think there's two schools of thought. Paulo and Franz are going to have the ball in their hands no matter what. So you need somebody, I think, to get them organized, and that is something that Corey Joseph has done very well. You need somebody who can knock down open shots. But I don't know. I think there's multiple ways to attack that. There's the classic point guard, facilitator, guy who gets everybody
settles
involved.
you down, gets you into your spots.
And then there's a guy who knocks down shots and gets everybody organized and plays the role that Corey Joseph's playing. I don't think there's one right answer there. I do think as far as Anthony Black goes, it's a matter of being aggressive, getting to the rack, as Coach Mosley says ad nauseum, and playing the way he did the other night, which is stepping into his jumper with confidence and being in attack mode from the get-go. AB is so smart. He can be a ball swinger, he can facilitate, and at times I think he can get lost within the framework of the offense. He needs to get that thing and go. And maybe, as far as the second unit goes, we'll see if with Cole getting healthy, does he slide into that
sure.
bench spot? Does Corey Joseph stay in the starting lineup? You've seen some pretty positive results with Kojo in there, so I don't think they'll mess with it right now.
Do any of us disagree that Sunday's Anthony Black would potentially be the starter? Like if you knew you could consistently get that from Anthony Black, that's a struggle for every second-year player. But if you can get that consistency, that's probably the only thing keeping him out of that role.
Absolutely. And he's very solid defensively. He's a great passer. He's a high IQ basketball player. So to have that framework for a young player and then want to sort of build like an add-on more aggression and more attack mode night in and night out, I think that would be eventually the perfect complement for Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero.
Now listen, we're not sitting here and saying that this one win, it's one win against Cleveland. We're not sitting here and saying now we're going to go to the playoffs as the 8th seed and we're going to beat Cleveland. We could, anything can happen. Certainly say that. So let's not get it twisted. But that was a big game, and I love this from Zach Attack, who says after that point with the confrontation, Ty Jerome scored 2 points and Paulo scored 19. Okay? So there you go. That's what we mean by mess around and find out. Okay, and then the other guy we want to talk about before we duck in the break, and then we'll come back and kind of talk about some of the others. Wendell Carter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, they were terrific. But Franz Wagner in that basketball game started 0 for 7. Struggled mightily after a tough game against Minnesota, we are just seeing teams now understanding there's nothing we can do with Paulo. So Paulo's going to get his. We're going to throw every other available body at Franz. And we're going to try to make it as difficult on him as possible. And that's what we've seen. And still, through that, after starting 0 of 7, he goes 6 for 15 the rest of the way, okay, which is obviously terrific production. I'm sorry, that was Paulo. He goes 0 for 7, so he went 2 for 12. 8 for 12. 8 for 12 the rest of the way. Franz goes 8 for 12 after starting 0 for 7. He gets you 8 rebounds. He gets you a couple of assists, goes for 22 points. Franz Wagner, since he had the injury, it's been 24 games. He's getting you 24 points a game, 5 rebounds, 3.6 assists after that 22-point, 8-rebound performance. They are on pace. Paulo and Franz will only be the second duo in Orlando Magic history, teammates, to both average 20 points per game, other than Shaq and Penny. It has not happened since Shaq and Penny that 2 Magic players on the same team have averaged 20 points a game.
And it's pick your poison, and you're going to see different ways to attack it night in and night out. I think different coaches are going to load up on Paulo one night, and then you're going to see Franz loaded up on like he was on Sunday, and they're still learning how to play off of that.
Right.
It's really important to think about how young they are as far as playing together and playing at this level together, and Franz Wagner's having a career year. The three ball has not been falling as of late for Franz. And when that starts, 35, 38%.
Yeah, but he's not alone in that. I mean,
no, I mean, it's sort of commonplace. Yeah, right. But we know Franz is better than month of March.
Correct.
23% from three-point range. When he knocks down 3 or 4 threes, like we talked about with Paulo over the weekend as well, when those guys are knocking out shots from the perimeter, there's just no way to stop them.
There isn't. I see the comments here, and Amani, you're exactly right. KCP was crucial in that last game, and we'll get into that when we come back because I think that's a big point. You don't win that game without those 2 big threes from Anthony Black, without that big 3 from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and he's had a couple of opportunities to kind of knock down that big 3 since he's been here, and he came through in a big way against Cleveland. Magic fans celebrate a Kingdom on the Rise with us at Kia Center. See the Magic represent Orlando in the City Edition uniforms as they battle it out against the Mavericks on Thursday, March 27th. Hopefully Anthony Davis back in uniform for Dallas for that game. OrlandoMagic.com is where you can get your tickets for that one. We'll be back with more Magic Insiders, a closer look at Wendell, Anthony Black, and KCP when we return in a moment. And welcome back. It is Magic Insiders presented by International Diamond Center. Dante Marchitelli, Jake Chapman here with you. The Magic are back at it tomorrow. We'll have that for you. Jake Chapman on the call. We'll start at 6:30 on 96.9 The Game and at 6:30 on FanDuel Sports Network. And 13 games remain. Can you believe that? We're at the point where we're midway through March and there's 13 games left.
I can because Thursday is the first official day of the NCAA tournament, and that I got that one circled. That's like people say the day after the Super Bowl should be a federal holiday. First Thursday
Yes,
of
I
March
agree.
Madness. It's the best.
Maybe the Friday after the first
And
day.
maybe that too, yeah.
Maybe that day. What are you going to do on Thursday?
I don't know. Just hang out, watch some hoops,
Watch some hoops.
pet the dog.
Yep, there you go. You got the whole day planned. It should be a good one. We know you were looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to that Magic game. And again, we do Magic Insiders Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock, 3 to 3:30 on 96.9 The Game. So we encourage you to check that out. And then on Tuesdays at 11, we do this live stream here on the Orlando Magic YouTube channel. Let's get you our call of the game. It's brought to you by Glip from Ring Central. Rethink the way you work with secure meetings and messaging on any device with Glip by Ring Central. Visit glip.com to learn more. KCP hit one of the biggest shots of the game. A huge 3 late. Came back and tied the game as things were starting to get away, as Cleveland was starting to pull away. He had 15 points in that game. The Magic now are 7-3 on the season in games where KCP goes for 15 or more. We brought him in. He's given you the stellar defense all year. The shooting has kind of come and gone. The shooting has been much better here, as you pointed out on Magic Drive Time or Magic Insiders yesterday. What have you seen from KCP, and how big was he against Cleveland?
They try to get him going early. I think that's we've all noticed that. And with a rhythm shooter like him, and especially a guy who expends so much energy on the defensive end, I think sometimes early on in the game when he's got all of his juice, like seeing a couple jumpers fall is very helpful for him. Look, he scored in double digits 5 of the last 7 games. In the month of March, he's shooting 47.6%. So we knew it was going to swing, that he wasn't quite the shooter that we saw early in the season. But you're right. Like he's brought it on the defensive end all season long. He's brought it, period. He's been available all season long. I think a day off, which he had on Friday night against Minnesota, for KCP means more than just about for anybody else. Like that guy, he's fighting a lot, just as far as being a veteran and how banged up his body has to be and the way that he plays the game. But I think we knew that was going to swing, that he was going to get closer to his career average 3-point wise. And when he knocks down shots, it just makes such a huge difference. We know what we can expect night in and night out as far as the defense goes, but he was brought in, as you said, to space the floor for Paulo and Franz, and he's been doing that as of late.
Well, he's had an opportunity. He's not alone with some of the big shots that have been missed late this year. Everybody has kind of taken their opportunity, but that was huge. He knocked down a big one. AB got a couple. Got a couple of questions here. Everybody's talking about Quentin Grimes. A comment here about Ty Jerome. You look at Dyson Daniels. There's decisions that this front office has to make, and there's options out there as you look at free agency this year. And we know they'll look at everybody. Those are some names that have been suggested. We have no idea where they're going to go, but there's some great options out there as you start looking at improving this team during the offseason.
Absolutely, and that was, you go back to the trade deadline, and I know there was a whole bunch of noise made about the lack of activity, but now you still have all of those assets. Anything that you might have tried to cash in at the trade deadline for like a short-term fix, you can kind of stack some of those this summer, and I think you'll have hopefully a better idea of what exactly you're looking for heading into the offseason.
We've been the first one to point out the inconsistencies of the second unit, right? And Gary Harris has had his ups and downs, but as Jay Curve points out, the steal by Gary under the basket, right? You get 2 back-to-back turnovers.
That was the basketball game.
Change the game, right? What was your perspective as you were? Because you called the game. I was watching it with my fam. You were working.
To see, especially when you're on the road, to see a building quieted like
right.
the one that I grew up in, fell in love with basketball
yes.
in as a Cleveland native, and you just don't see 2 steals in the back. That's college basketball. That's high school basketball
Great
stuff,
point.
right?
Right.
You just typically don't see a team unable to get the ball across half court twice in a row, and that was absolutely the biggest swing of the game. I think it was in the middle of an 8 or 10-0 run that happened, in like 2 minutes, which obviously getting steals in the backcourt and going in for layups. That tends to happen, but that to me absolutely swung the game. It completely cooled down that crowd, and we need plays like that. Like our team, I think, really gets energized. Some teams, 2 or 3 threes in a row, that's sort of what gets them fired up. With us, I think a lot of times it's defensive plays, it's hustle plays.
Yes, it is, right.
That type of stuff. And to see Gary and AB be in the middle of those plays, and the cause of those plays, I think we've been waiting for the bench to kind of chip in and give us something special, and we saw that
consistently,
on Sunday.
and that's what we saw. You're exactly right. Real quick, we'll shift gears for just a second. I love this question. We're going to have to answer that immediately, but I'm going to put that on hold for a second. Dwight Howard going into the Magic Hall of Fame. That's coming up against the Los Angeles Lakers on Tuesday, right? No-brainer. That guy is probably, when it's all said and done, the greatest player to ever wear a Magic uniform because of the records that he holds, the time that he was here, and helped get this team to a finals.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't want to say it's overdue, but I think we've been expecting it for a while. And look, it was really cool to have him in the house for Game 6 last year against the Cavaliers in the playoffs. Felt like, kind of a lot of the maybe acrimony about the way it all ended was sort of put to bed with that, and this will be the next step in that direction. Certainly where he belongs.
I love this question. It says, "Is Kendra Douglas the coolest coworker you've ever worked with?"
Who sent that
and
in?
it comes from Kendra Douglas.
Oh.
And no offense, Jake, but yes, she probably would be.
Yeah,
should be up there. Yeah. Absolutely, no question about it. Which, by the way, you've been busy before games as well. How can we tap into what you're doing on a game night?
That's a great question. I
still don't know. Okay, fair enough.
No,
fair
I
enough.
think
We don't know where to find it or what
Hop
you're doing.
on the Magic YouTube. At this point, there's
You're
content.
on this too. You do this also?
Yeah. At times.
Nice.
We're experimenting.
Yes,
we're
I like it.
experimenting. So ask Dewberry an hour before tip off. Where's Jake? And I'll be somewhere. I guarantee.
I like when I come out of the meal room and there's a camera right there. There's Kendra's phone and it's this tiny little microphone thing. Say, what's your day like? And I'm like, and that's going out to everywhere.
And exactly, Kendra is polished enough that she can walk through the corridors with a camera over her shoulder.
No, this is true.
Nobody wants to see or hear the things that I say as I'm walking through the corridors of the Kia Center. It's just a whole bunch of swearing and mumbling to myself.
Yeah, well, this is true. I can vouch for that. Yeah, you certainly want to have that monitored, no question. All right, last thing before we get out of here, Wendell Carter Jr., I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the game we got from him. He got his 9th double-double of the season, and Wendell gets you 16 points, 14 rebounds. I thought terrific defense, 35 minutes. Goga's going through it right now. He's got to figure it out. We need Goga back. To do what you have to do and to be the team that you're going to be, you need him playing terrific off the bench, and he can get back to that, no question. You still have 13 games left. But Wendell, aggressive, attacking the basket. He had a huge and one. I thought that was the most exciting play he's had of the year, where he drove right around Jared Allen, laid it in, and drew contact. 9th double-double. You don't need that production every night from Wendell, but when you get it, you're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, and especially against a Jared Allen and a team like Cleveland. I think we needed it that night. You're right. 16 and 14 is a lot to ask night in and night out. But, Jay, I played 7 minutes off the bench. Goga played, 7 or 8? Those guys are going through it right now, and sometimes availability is an issue with those guys, especially at the end of a long road trip. So he's been solid all season long. He's been available, short of that injury at the beginning of the season. And you're right. We need him to be the beef down low, and he was awesome. He does so many little things that he
Right.
probably doesn't get appreciated enough for, things like setting screens, post defense. But the rebounding has been a roller coaster, and not just Wendell. I'm talking team wide.
Yeah.
Post All-Star break, and so double-digit rebounds night in and night out. Right now is what we need from Wendell, and he brought it on Sunday for sure.
He certainly did. Now you got to keep it going. You got 13 games left, and next up will be the Houston Rockets, which you owe.
Oh,
you
we
were
know those
unable
guys.
to
Speaking
score
of rebounds.
against the Houston Rockets. They crushed you. Steven Adams, Alperen Şengün. That team was dead in the water last night against Philadelphia, and they found a way to come back. Which, by the way, another little side note here before we duck out. We didn't have the game in Cleveland, so we had to fly back. Me, Kendra Douglas, Jeff Turner, and Greg Hartung. Flight is at 7:30. Okay, we got a lot of flack for this. Flight is at 7:30. What time would you leave the hotel to make sure you were ready to get back? What time would you have
In Cleveland?
No, this is Minnesota. We came back from Minnesota.
I'm not sure how far the airport is.
20 minutes.
Okay. 7:30. 5.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what time you leave. And that's why you get there plenty early. We got a lot of flack. Kendra thinks you should leave at 7. So that would not have left us enough time, Kendra. So but we dragged her out early, but it was a good thing because that was a packed airport. And that's why you leave early.
You never know.
You never know what you're going to run into. So I think that's important. All right.
Kids, man. Kids these days.
Wendell, some comments about Wendell and what needs to happen there. But listen, I think the other thing we have to realize is the injuries that he's battled his entire career. This is the most consecutive games Wendell Carter Jr. has ever played in his career, right? So think about that. So you're getting it from a guy whose main goal right now is to be on the floor. All the other things will kind of figure themselves out. But in this year, with everybody being unavailable, the fact that he has had the most consistent run of his NBA career, to me, speaks volumes.
He plays a rugged position ruggedly, and it was a point of emphasis for him to be available this year, to get his body to a point where he could play 30, 40 consecutive games. And that's tough for anybody, regardless.
Right.
Not to mention a big that plays the way that he plays. How heavy was your luggage?
Oh, jeez. Okay, listen. We were on an 8-day trip. 8-day trip, right? You're allowed 50 pounds. Kendra's was 63, mind you. 63 with another small suitcase that was jammed with all the heavy stuff, right?
Okay.
So that thing. Mine was 58.
So you
58 with 3 suits.
had as much stuff as Kendra?
No, she had an extra suitcase
Oh.
with all of her heavy stuff.
58 pounds of stuff.
I know, but she was at 63 with arguably 20 pounds of it taken out. She brings rocks and tools. I don't know what
That's
the
why I
heck she
love
has in
radio.
there. Try to lift that suitcase up. I don't know how much
A
stuff.
couple hoodies and I'm good.
Yeah, and ready to go. You travel light, no question about it. But you know what? I'm watching that game, and it was awesome to be there, watch a game. Finally, national TV with my family that we won was huge.
Yes.
But the other thing, you're listening and you're thinking that environment is unbelievable. What you said, you grew up going to those games there, and to quiet that crowd,
Yes.
a team that had won 16 in a row, right, the hottest streak in the NBA, and to think that when they walked onto that floor, they thought there's no way we're not getting 17 in a row. And to steal that from them, to me, was huge. And it can give you just enough confidence the last 13 games to go on the run you need.
Quieting 20,000 Clevelanders is very difficult to do, but it can be very satisfying. Quieting Ty Jerome was
That was the best
that was the big one.
All right, you're right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you next Tuesday right here on the Orlando Magic YouTube channel. Jake, Kendra, everybody will be doing other things that, as Nate Bargatze says, nobody knows where it is or how you get to it. But they'll be doing that, so keep checking this channel throughout the rest of the way. 13 games left. We will next see you tomorrow on FanDuel Sports Network at 6:30, and Jake Chapman will have the call at 6:30 on 96.9 The Game. Have a great night.